Hello, I'm Jefficus. Unfortunately, Darktide is dead, and its developer Fatshark appears to be content with the current state of the game. Let's take a quick look at the numbers that Darktide is pulling on Steam. Alright, a little under 8,000 peak players today, that's good. Now what happens when we take a look at a real game? Oh, and this game is how old? Don't get me wrong, I love this game. I want to see the game succeed because I'm addicted to it, and I've inhaled enough copium to believe that if more people criticize Darktide's blatant issues, Fatshark might do something about them. So let's talk about it. Darktide's last big update proved that the game might be able to attract more players in the short term, but it has problems holding on to those players in the long term. What the game excels in are its aesthetics, sound design, its progression, and its actual gameplay. All of these areas are really well done, and very little needs to be done to improve upon them. But there are major things that keep potential new players from getting into the game, and there are things that are causing massive burnout for veteran players in endgame. The first thing that I want to point out is that Darktide has several barriers to entry for new players, but the biggest and most harmful to the game is its price tag. Don't get me wrong, $40 for a game like Darktide is a pretty good deal, but this is still a barrier to entry when there are so many other live service free-to-play games out there competing for people's time. The reason why I bring this up is because Darktide also has microtransactions in the form of a cosmetics shop. If I'm a potential new player looking for a new game where I'm going to invest a lot of my time, why would I pick a game that not only has a price tag attached to it, but also has the majority of its good-looking armor locked behind another paywall? It doesn't play the same at all, but League of Legends is a good free-to-play game that has a similar monetization structure to Darktide, in that most of what an active player is going to pay for is going to be character skins or cosmetics, and the game is doing fantastic, so microtransactions aren't intrinsically the problem. And if you don't think that League is a good game, trust me, I'm not a fan of it either, but its player count and sheer presence in the industry proves otherwise. But hey, maybe you think that this isn't a fair comparison because the developer of League, Riot Games, is massive. Well, that's totally fine. Let's turn our attention to a game that has almost the exact same pricing model that Darktide does, but has managed to build a bigger community. Deep Rock Galactic by Ghost Ship Games is a live service game that is cheaper than Darktide, selling for a price tag of $30. The game also has cosmetic microtransactions, but it manages to hold onto a player base twice the size of Darktide on Steam. Oh, and Ghost Ship Games has 32 employees. Fatshark is up to at least 180 now. So how exactly does Fatshark fix this problem with Darktide? My recommendations would be to make the game free to play and to put all of the cosmetics that have been released up until this point into the shop. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that Fatshark removes cosmetics that they develop from their shop after they've only been up for about a month. I don't know who's working at data analytics or marketing at Fatshark, but this strategy obviously isn't working. Wouldn't it be better to just design the game in a way that attracts a larger community of people while having more cosmetic items in the store for them to be able to purchase? I think it would definitely be more profitable than having a smaller community of players that tries to collect these skins as they come out because they have a fear of missing out on them. But hey, I'm not a sales expert. Maybe the data analytics guy at Fatshark knows better than the data analytics team over at Riot Games. You know, the guys that made the game that has infinitely more players and industry presence than Darktide. Yeah, I'm sure Fatshark has it all figured out. Anyways, next I want to talk about why veteran players are becoming more and more burnt out. Obviously, if Fatshark were to make more content, that would help alleviate the situation we're in, but this doesn't actually fix the game's main issues. If you aren't the kind of person who is intrinsically motivated to continuously improve your reaction time, aiming, and overall game knowledge, then the more time that you put into the game, the less you get out of it. After you've reached max level on all of the characters you're interested in playing and have obtained enough gear to get into the endgame, you quickly realize that you're just in a box. There are weapons and loadouts that do so much damage and provide so much utility to the team that it just doesn't make much sense not to use them when the game is as difficult as it is in Auric Maelstrom. For example, if I'm not playing as a gunpsyker, why would I bother bringing Smite into an activity when the Trauma Staff does the same job but arguably better? As a veteran, the class that relies on shooting my gun, why would I use any other aura than Survivalist, which gives me and my team more ammo the more special and elite enemies we kill? And from a damage standpoint, why wouldn't I just use the Columnus Infantry Autogun or Plasma Gun in an Auric Maelstrom? A Lasgun just isn't going to help me deal with a situation where 8 Crushers are standing between me and rescuing my teammates because the game just isn't balanced that way. Even if I were to optimize my talents to improve my Lasgun or add something to my overall build to be able to deal with every situation, it's just more practical to use the better gun. Does this mean that I want the Columnus or Plasma Gun to be nerfed? Well, maybe a little. What I'd actually like to see Fatshark do is buff a lot of the things that are underperforming so that new build opportunities are created in the endgame. More viable and optimal builds means more replayability, which helps alleviate burnout tremendously. And I'm not saying all this to gatekeep the community into only running meta builds and endgame content. If you're having fun with your build and you're putting out good damage and not dying, then I'm happy for you. The issue is that Fatshark has designed the game in a way that promotes toxicity in endgame content because certain builds have much higher win rates than others. Lastly, I am glad that Fatshark released a talent tree system for our characters. This was a huge W on their part. But they need to give a lot of these talents more thought in regards to how they synergize with all the perks and weapons that the game has to offer. As an example, let me show you how the foundation of almost every serious endgame veteran build starts. Fatshark needs to take a look at this, buff the underused talents, and move talents around in the talent tree to create better synergies. If I were to make recommendations on what they should do specifically, we'd be here for hours. But if that's something you want to see, leave a comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're at it. Alright, I'm gonna go inhale my daily dose of copium. I hope that even if you disagree with my takes, you at least found this to be entertaining. This has been Jefficus, and I'll see you in-game.